When it comes to the food chain, humans in particular sit at the very top. With our big brains, there's not a lot that any single animal can do to dethrone us. However, single animals aren't what you have to worry about, but large hordes of them all attacking at once. Do you really stand a chance against a river of flesh-eating fish? How about thousands of bees attacking all at once? What about a swarm of insects that can destroy your family's food supply in a few hours? When it comes to technology, humans win, but even technology can't help us against the world's deadliest swarms. Piranhas. The piranha has developed a reputation as being vicious, but in this case, words don't do it justice. It's easy to forget exactly how terrifying these killers are in real life. With their razor-sharp teeth and efficient feeding tactics, the red-bellied piranhas of the Amazon are something you will want to steer clear of. The behavior of the piranhas is actually quite deceiving because they seem innocent at first glance. They spread around and hunt for food solo, chowing down on everything from seeds to worms and crustaceans. However, everything changes when there's blood in the water. Piranhas can actually communicate with one another, and they will call the others over when there's a big meal too big to eat alone. In a matter of seconds, the piranhas swarm around the prey and take bite after bite. As they devour their kill, they coordinate with one another, even going so far as to take turns biting in order to most efficiently eat the entire animal. The sight is frightening and disturbing. Any meat dipped in piranha-infested waters will emerge clean to the bone in a matter of minutes. Locusts. While piranhas are scary because they eat flesh, the next creature on our list is unlikely to ever bite you. They kill you in a much slower way by driving you into starvation. Locusts are a type of grasshopper, so they're usually very harmless. They don't form groups, they don't congregate, and they don't swarm. However, something happens to the brains of these insects when they form too large a group. The physical proximity sets off a series of changes in their brains, where they turn from simple grasshoppers to swarming locusts. Locusts form large groups and become insatiable nomads, traveling from place to place, eating everything in their path. A single locust can eat its own body weight every day, which is terrifying due to how many locusts are in a swarm. A locust swarm can be made up of several billions of locusts, which means they can eat between 2 million to 35 million pounds of food a day. The biggest recorded swarm was in America in 1875, where a swarm of trillions of locusts swept through the Midwest. Their size was estimated as being bigger than California, and they consumed an estimated 13 billion pounds of food a day. There's a reason locusts were one of the 10 biblical plagues which struck Egypt. They devastate farmers and starve out families. Army ants. You might have a phobia of spiders, bees, or even cockroaches, but who has a phobia of ants? Not many people, but perhaps that's about to change once you meet the army ants. These creatures live in tropical environments and behave completely differently than the ants you're probably familiar with. Scientists consider these ants a superorganism, where each ant is like a single cell working for the greater good of the colony. Normally, ants form colonies underground, but army ants have no need for shelter. Instead, they form a cluster, where the outer ants latch onto each other to form a living shell out of their bodies. It really does look like a single organism. Normal ants send out individual scouts to scavenge for food, but army ants do things a little differently. Millions of ants form a swarm which actively hunts for food. They're essentially blind and distinguish prey by movement. If they find something edible, they'll all attack at once, bringing pieces back to the nest for the others to feed on. Culex mosquitoes. Most people in the world have encountered the Culex mosquitoes and how annoying they are. Sometimes you don't even notice you've been bitten until you're scratching the irritated, swollen bumps left behind. Because they're so common, they're not always thought of as dangerous, but mosquitoes are actually one of the most dangerous creatures in the world. Mosquitoes are so common because they breed in standing water, which is found all over the world. Those who live near swamps, marshes, or bayous have to be particularly careful, as mosquitoes are incredibly plentiful. These bugs don't stray far from their nest, which means when there's one, you'll find plenty more. What makes Culex mosquitoes so dangerous is that they don't only attack humans but also animals. This means that the mosquitoes are able to transmit a wide variety of viruses from animals to humans. For instance, the deadly West Nile virus is often spread from animals to humans. Since 1999, more than 40,000 people in the US have been affected, and outbreaks of the virus in Europe have resulted in many deaths. Culex mosquitoes also transmit other diseases such as malaria, Zika, and encephalitis. Encephalitis itself has caused tens of thousands of deaths, and Zika has caused an influx in birth defects. Killer bees. When a honeybee becomes agitated, it may try to sting you. While it may hurt, it's usually just a nuisance unless you're allergic. After all, it's just one bee. However, when you're dealing with killer bees, the situation becomes much more deadly. When one bee gets angry, they let off a pheromone telling all other bees in the hive to attack. Instead of dealing with the venom of a single bee, you're looking at a swarm of up to 800,000. These bees are very easy to anger, and they attack frequently. They've been known to chase a person up to a quarter mile away and remain frenzied for days at a time. Jumping in the water might work for regular honeybees, but killer bees will actually wait for you, hovering above the water. So think twice before angering the next bee you find. Even experts have a difficult time distinguishing honeybees from killer bees. Dolphins. In the animal world, there are a few ways to make yourself an effective killer. It's not always about speed, agility, or strength. Sometimes the advantage comes from social intelligence and the ability to work in groups. The bottlenose dolphin is a prime example of this because they've developed an interesting group hunting technique to catch fish. Just like members of a sports team, each dolphin undertakes a specific role. In shallow water, a group of dolphins can detect fish from over 260 feet away or 80 meters. When they find a group of fish, they'll split up. One dolphin will swim ahead and stir up mud from the ocean floor, which creates a visual barrier in the water. The other dolphins will chase the target fish, scaring them towards the cloudy water. The fish see the barrier and think they're cornered, so they jump out of the water to escape their predators. Of course, the dolphins plan for this and happily eat the fish right out of the air. Tsetse flies. Although most of the diseases in Africa are transmitted by mosquitoes, it's also a good idea to be on the lookout for swarms of tsetse flies in rural areas. These flies are known to transmit African trypanosomiasis, also known as sleeping sickness. The infection seems just like a common illness at first, with fatigue, headaches, muscle aches, and a high fever. If not treated, the symptoms become much worse by progressing to sleep disorders, psychiatric disorders, seizures, coma, and even death. It's difficult to tell a normal fly from a tsetse fly. The only differences are the way they fold their wings and the long probe extending from the base of their head. Be on the lookout because although the rate of infection is decreasing each year, there's still no vaccine for the sleeping sickness. A single bite is all it takes to expose you to the risks of the tsetse fly. If you find yourself in rural Africa, try to wear long-sleeved shirts in neutral colors and bring plenty of insect repellent. Giant hornets. If you thought killer bees were bad, just wait until you hear about Asian giant hornets. These hornets can grow to the size of a human thumb and can fly at speeds up to 25 miles an hour for a distance of 50 miles. What makes them really scary is their stingers. Unlike other insects, they don't lose their stingers after attacking. This can result in being stung over and over again by the same hornet. Just imagine what a group can do. To make things worse, their stingers carry a lethal mix of a protein that will cause sepsis and death. In 2013 in China, a swarm of Asian giant hornets killed 42 people and injured 1,600 others. Those that survived ended up with kidney damage and wounds resembling bullet holes. While authorities in some countries are trying to destroy the huge basketball-sized nests in order to protect the community, the hornets keep moving into new areas due to climate change. There's more Asian giant hornets now than ever. Although it might look dorky, perhaps you should consider wearing a protective suit if you plan on traveling to Asia. Chimpanzees. Chimpanzees are truly adorable animals, but don't mistake them for being harmless. Chimps like to hunt, and they like to do it in packs called troops. One specific population of chimpanzees lives in Uganda's Kibale National Park. Much of the chimp's diet consists of fruit, but they also enjoy eating meat. Specifically, the chimps here like to hunt red colobus monkeys. One big reason for this is because the red colobus don't run away from predators. Instead, they stand up for themselves. While this may help save them from being eaten by other animals, troops of chimps have no problems taking down a red colobus. In fact, the red colobus are so easy to take down that their population has dwindled significantly. In the late 1990s, half of the red colobus population was killed each year by chimp troops. The chimps have now moved on to other species, which are also now declining in population. Luckily, scientists don't think that chimpanzees will ever completely eradicate a species. Their hunts are so successful that the prey becomes harder to find, giving time for the population to grow again. Candiru. If you plan on traveling to South America, specifically near the Amazon River basin, you'll want to pay very close attention to what happens to you in the water. The candiru is a species of catfish which is absolutely terrifying. In one case, 2 South American men were found deceased in the water, and an investigation began to figure out what happened. At first, their injuries appeared to have originated from gunfire. However, the doctors discovered something completely different. The gunshot wounds were actually bite marks from the Candira asu, which had burrowed into the men's bodies. When the doctors performed an autopsy, they were surprised to find the men's bodies were cleaned out and replaced with dozens of fish. In another horrifying case, a man was sent to the hospital after urinating in water containing a candiru. The parasitic fish had swum up inside the man's body through his urethra in an attempt to feed off of him. Luckily, the doctors were able to extract the fish. Whether it be by air, land, or sea, Mother Nature really does know how to use numbers to her advantage. Maybe now you'll think twice before skinny dipping in the Amazon or killing that lone bee. You never know when you'll be forced to run for your life.